What's poppin', y'all? This is Deidre with One Shot Game. Man, you already know how the motto go. You get one shot at life, but a lifetime to learn all the game you need to help improve your life. You know what I'm saying? The choice is really up to you where you decide to take your mind after so long of learning lessons. You either want to go a different way or keep going the same way. The choice is really literally up to you. You know what I'm saying? So before I get into the title of my video, big shout out to all my supporters. You guys are great. So look, listen, the title of this video is going to be on the deep significance of how much of a major role sex plays between two people. Like, it holds so much power, so much weight, so much spiritual significance that it is a very good idea if you decide to refrain from just, you know what I'm saying, sleeping around with anybody. Like, a lot of people know how much power it holds. You know what I'm saying? And oftentimes, like, it's so powerful that people stay in toxic relationships far longer than they need to, solely because that, you know what I'm saying, power of sex is so powerful that they just can't release themselves and let go, because you have such an emotional attachment to it that you just can't see yourself doing it with nobody else. You know what I'm saying? But in the long run, it could be so toxic that it's slowly killing you, though. You know what I'm saying? That's why it's really important that when you decide to take it there with somebody, you know exactly what you're getting into. You know what I'm saying? It's real. Like on the show Power, for instance. If you notice, listen, it gets real tricky when they start sleeping with people. You know what I'm saying? You notice how they try really hard to keep their brain out of getting too attached to that person, because then it alters your choices, it alters how you move, it alters the way, you feel me, you make certain choices in life, because now you have that attachment. And I could just speak for real life. You know what I'm saying? Listen, let me tell you something. It can have you making serious judgment calls on your own life. Like, you can really just be in this blind type of sensation where you just black out everything. You know what I'm saying? It's so powerful that you will keep going back and back even though you know it's rocky. I don't know what it is. I don't know why it has the power to be so powerful over humans, but again, and then you got to think about it. Coming from the era I come from, like, that is all people was doing, was getting on and doing that. You know what I'm saying? Not taking the time to go on a date, not taking the time to get to know the person. And oftentimes other generations were created solely because of that. And then you see the disruption, because now you having a ton of issues you got to deal with this person that you don't even know them for real, but your soul bonded with theirs, and they was both toxic. And you feel me? Now it's just be like, okay, whatever. You know what I'm saying? Listen, from my experience with that, listen, I know me for real, and I know that it's best, you know what I'm saying, if a personal choice for me, get to know who I'm dealing with before I even get involved in that. You feel me? Because once that happens, it's almost like listen, it could be good or bad. You know what I'm saying? And if you know what you're doing, it's kind of like it's a need for you to ignore red flags. Like, you don't even see them because you be so attached to that. You know what I'm saying? And if, you know what I'm saying, no harm or foul against people in general, but when you're working with demons, to me, which is solely just people who operate out of a low vibration because of whatever they've been through in life, that is what one of the things that they use to will their people in. You know what I'm saying? Because they know that if they get them to stay because of that, they can almost finesse and manipulate their mind for them to be able to do whatever they want because they're already attracted to that. You know what I'm saying? And if you fall for it, you'll start to see later on, like, dang, it first started out, it was good, but now I'm in this toxic situation, you know what I'm saying? And I may be getting finessed and cheated on and you feel me, physical and mental abuse, but I'm still trapped that I don't even know how to get out. That it be the one main factor. You know what I'm saying? Listen, let me tell you something. I had an experience with that both times. And now that I look back, I start to realize how powerful it is between two people that don't even realize the power they hold together, and how strong those soul ties are, that every time you decide to engage in that, you know what I'm saying? Listen, let me tell you something. The soul tie grows. My first relationship, you know what I'm saying, lasted for a long time, 8 years, like, but I was solely just like crippling myself because I was attached because of that. You know what I'm saying? But I couldn't give you what you needed and what you wanted out of a relationship because I didn't know how to even pour into myself. But because you just did it so good and you knew what you was doing, I zing, power so strong, boy. Listen, I don't care if, you feel me, you catch me down the street at my partner house and you want me to be with you, I'm still coming back. You can't leave me. You know what I'm saying? You can't. It just is, it's not going to be as easy as you think it is. You know what I'm saying? And once that emotional attachment grows so strong, it is really difficult and really hard. You know what I'm saying? But it's like at some point you have to use logic, and it's either pain over pleasure. You know what I'm saying? Because when it gets so toxic, it's almost like, okay, now I have to cut it off. You know what I'm saying? And listen, back then we was young, so we was getting lit, getting on, you feel me, and then having sex, and then, you feel me, going to sleep and waking up, and you feel me, living life. You feel me? Like, listen, let me tell you something. You feel me? I didn't realize how powerful it was until I decided to subtract myself from being intimate or being in relationships with anybody. You know what I'm saying? Having the understanding that it is so sacred that when you do give it to somebody, you have to be very wise in who you choose to, because some people personally seek that out just so they can have power over you. You know what I'm saying? A person that is understanding of how powerful it is and how powerful they are, you know what I'm saying, would understand that when that does come together as one, we grow in ourselves. You feel me? We're able to blossom in what we're supposed to blossom in and keep growing in who we are. You know what I'm saying? Instead of, oh, now it's the toxicness, the possessiveness, the controlling. Listen, I've been in situations where it was like that. You know what I'm saying? And I thought in my mind that it was love. And in some type of way it could have been. But then at the same time, it was like, there is no reason why you should, you feel me, be controlling and possessing somebody. Like, that's crazy. You know what I'm saying? So it got to a point where my first relationship was like, absolutely not. I wanted it, but they were like, absolutely not. You know what I'm saying? And that's when they started to wise up, like, listen, I can't keep giving that to you because it's driving you crazy, but you ain't giving me what I want. You know what I'm saying? So it made sense. I didn't fight it too much. You know what I'm saying? Because I was like, all right, in order, you feel me? Maybe at the time in my brain it didn't make sense, but logically it did. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, okay, if we stop that, then the attachment won't, you feel me, be able to be so strong. But we were young when we first got together, you feel me? And had I known you was gonna do that, you feel me, I'd have been more careful. But it just happened. You know what I'm saying? So over the course of, you know what I'm saying, breakups and makeups and all that, you know, you find yourself being invested in other people, but I never got the satisfaction out of it that I did when you have an emotional attachment. You know what I'm saying? But the emotional attachment should be healthy as you grow wiser. But when you start off young, it might not be like that. You know what I'm saying? And so then The second one was kind of like, listen, it started to make sense that something is going on here. You know what I'm saying? I can't really pinpoint it out, because sometimes you don't realize things until after you're done with it, and then it starts to click and make sense. But while you're in it, you can't see the signs clear enough, you know? But every time it was like on some demon time type stuff, and then we would go outside and smoke a cigarette. Like, listen to me and understand this. Something very powerful was happening in that exchange, you know. And oftentimes when you're dealing with someone that is a demon, and don't take it offensive, it's just someone that finesses people to make them think that they're these people that's going to give them everything in the world, but really they're soulless, and they're controlled by their trauma, and their trauma doesn't care about people, and because of that, it's only in it to get whatever it needs from you, and it feeds off of negative energy. You know what I'm saying? So in order to keep you trapped in the cycle, they will give it to you good as hell, baby, and then turn around and come up with something to make you mad, for them to be able to feed off the negative energy, to go somewhere else and get supply from someone who has no idea what they're up to. The only one that's getting tricked and played is the one that doesn't become aware of what is actually happening until they're far away and done with it. You know what I'm saying? And then you have like the angel, you know what I'm saying, that went through its trauma, realized where it needed to grow. It grew, and they're thinking that they're head over heels in love, and that, you know what I'm saying, them giving themselves to them is a form of me showing you I love you, I care about you, and it's growing our relationship. And that's what you have in your mind. But in their mind, they don't look at it like that, because they're completely like incapable of showing love, because they have no idea what love is. You know what I'm saying? And it's easy to get tricked and finessed if you're working yourself up to realizing what real love is, but you're still dealing with some insecurities on the background. And you know what I'm saying? I've experienced it. And my first one was kind of like, okay, we were both learning at that time. But then the second one, I started getting closer to figuring out and growing and evolving and figuring out who I was. And then it started to make sense. You know what I'm saying? And when you're trauma bonded with someone, it comes with the toxicness, the verbal abuse, the mental abuse, the manipulation, the finessing, the lying. You know what I'm saying? And it's just a learning process until you get to a point in your life where you start to be like, okay, now I'm going to put myself on ice and reserve myself, so that when I do finally come into contact with someone, I know that, you know what I'm saying, you're going to cherish me as well as everything that comes with me. You know what I'm saying? And that's ultimately, I assume, you feel me, people who are waiting to give their self to the right person. Because that having sex with anybody randomly is very toxic, but it's so easy to have that connection with someone. Like, I know and understand now that eye contact, listen, will get you fucked. Excuse my language. That's why you gotta be careful the way you look at people. You know what I'm saying? Listen, put glasses on. Wear glasses. If you know you have a certain, you feel me, type of aurora, a type of energy about yourself, and you know that, I'm like, for me, I'm very strong on eye contact. Like, that tells me everything I need to know by you looking me in my eye when you're talking to me. When you're not looking me in my eye, you either nervous or you lying. You feel me? Or something got you off, but for whatever reason, you can't look me dead in my eyes. So because I'm so strong on that, you got to be careful, because sometimes people take that as you are interested in them or you like them. No, that's not what it is. It's just me, you feel me, getting a feel for who I'm talking to. So now I just be a little bit more careful with that. You feel me? Because it could lead you down a serious rabbit hole with somebody, and if you are not aware who that person is, it could be real dangerous. You know what I'm saying? You see it all the time. Like, I love the show Power. It's very idealistic to what is happening right now in the world, and the fact that, big shout out to 50 Cent, made it, and he's also a Cancer Gang. Oh, for sure, tapped in. When I first seen the first episode, I was a little skeptical about it, but then somebody was like, hey, Soon, like the first year I got out of prison, somebody was like, hey, you should watch this. And I was like, all right, cool. So then I got into the first season, and then I just went down the rabbit hole with it. You know what I'm saying? And it takes you down a type of understanding of how, like, you can be finessed, and who got power and they know what they're doing with it and how to control it. Like, but one thing I can say for sure is the fact that everybody in that TV show that had some type of power didn't do drugs, and hardly none of them drank. And when they did drink, those were the ones that people tried to finesse the most. Like, you gotta really keep your eyes open when watching that show, because it'll tell you a lot about human behavior. You know what I'm saying? And how, if you're not on your toes, you can get slept on. For instance, I never seen Tyreek take a drink, and even when he's offered a drink, he passes on it. Yeah, because when you're a person of power, you realize how that could cripple you. You know what I'm saying? And a person can have one up on you because you're lower your consciousness. It's so real. I speak about it all the time. People are just now coming to being in this realization of understanding how strong that alcohol and drugs play on your spirituality, you know. But again, it's always going to be around. People have a choice to do whatever they want. But I'm just saying, from my perspective, it's basically like we were living everything that snatched our soul before we got to the point where we wake up. You feel me? So it's basically like going through the experience of life and then finally waking up. And I'm in my mid 30s, so it's kind of like, okay, I did everything possible to stop me from ever discovering who I was, because I was too busy, you feel me, basically, you feel me, living the vamp life. And when you live in the vamp life, your soul doesn't, you feel me, try to sometimes connect with people. It's all in what you can get out of it. You know what I'm saying? So it's a very big difference, you know? So understanding and realizing how much of a stronghold that plays is very real. And understanding, like, I actually had my first experience with that when I had my daughter. You know what I'm saying? Being the fact that I slept with someone where I just had a connection with, but not a connection. It was just a finessing connection. So when I got pregnant, it was a whole different scenario. So once I learned from that experience, it was kind of like, okay, now you gotta, you feel me, what you gonna do? You feel me? And I'm not saying life experiences control how you look at life, but sometimes they play a bigger part on how you gonna decide to move. You feel me? And listen, just from my own personal experience, listen, let me tell you something. Listen, I'm a sucker for all around intelligent, like-minded, strong, sexy woman. I don't know what it is, but it does something to me. But being the fact that I've grown older, I know how to control my urges. You know what I'm saying? Because you got to think about it. It is women in the world who basically cater to that and finesse people on purpose just because they appear to have all those things that I just named. You know what I'm saying? And they go into these scenarios and these public settings with the intention of stealing your soul, but never giving you a piece of theirs back. You know what I'm saying? So you got to be careful and be wise. You know what I'm saying? On when you make certain decisions. Like, we living in an era now where people are almost afraid of getting married. Like, I don't understand what's wrong with getting married. I don't understand what's wrong with being with someone that truly makes you happy. Why is it that we have to sleep with multiple people, or just, you feel me, don't sleep with nobody? If we all just took the time out to work on ourselves, it wouldn't be like that. You know what I'm saying? People would be able to have a solid connection with someone that shares the same similar likes and shares the same similar traits, and it has grown, and you know what I'm saying? They love themselves, and first and foremost, you feel me, they have to have a relationship with God, because if you don't, you know what I'm saying, you're gonna go down the rabbit hole. I've been toxic. I've been controlled. I've been in relationships where it got real. I'm not doing that no more. You feel me? But when you grow up and you get wiser, you start to be able to understand by just connecting with someone if they're good for you and if they're not. You know what I'm saying? That a lot of times they got us believing that we just supposed to be single for the rest of our lives, or we not supposed to be married, or whatever the case. I get it. Some people are just not okay with going and having a wedding and stuff. But listen, I think that's like every woman's dream, is to have a wedding and walk down the aisle and get married with the, like, come on, who don't want that as a woman, I believe. You know what I'm saying? So it's just like, it's all in who you are, to be honest. You know what I'm saying? And I don't want to take I done already went down left in the rabbit hole, but this video was just mainly supposed to focus on the fact that having sex with someone is a very strong soul tie and a very strong soul bond. And if you're not aware of the person that you have sex with, it could lead you down a rabbit hole of destruction. It's off centers and off balance you, depending on who the person is. They have a sense of control over you now because they know, you feel me, that holds a lot of power. And a person that is aware of how much power that holds, they use it to basically one up on you and get what they want out of the situation. And it's almost like it's a way to help you block out the red flags, because they get better and better at it. You know what I'm saying? And they start doing some things that had you locked in, and you be like, I can't even see the red flag. Yes, you can. You just blocking it out on purpose. So I just have to salute anybody that is able to cut that off when they start seeing red flags, instead of staying too attached to it, because it's just that good. It's toxic. You feel me? It can get real and fast. So just be mindful. You know what I'm saying? If you can, hold out for as long as you can till you really seriously can kind of get a bird's eye view of what you're dealing with. You know what I'm saying? Like, people evolve, people do change, but I feel like a person is gonna show you who they are not long after you've been interacting with them. You feel me? It will become evident of who you're really dealing with, and that is a choice you're gonna have to make if you decide to take it there or not. But the best relationships are formed without that. You know what I'm saying? Like, for reals. Because a lot of times people just want to see if you is really trustworthy. See if you is really, you feel me, real. Someone they can depend on. Someone that can hold it down. You know what I'm saying? Like, for instance, I had a scenario where it was this boy, like, we went to 8th grade Albert Einstein together, right? But first, he was into me, but I was in a relationship, you feel me, with a woman I love, but I had a crush on him at the same time, if that makes sense. You feel me? And I don't think it was really anything, you feel me, sexual. It was just, he was a good dude, you feel me? He was polite and kind, and you feel me, just respectable all around, you feel me? And the fact that one time, I think I was like, what, 21, and I had my own apartment in the north, you feel me? And he came over, and he was like, listen, I got this whoop whoop, I want to, you feel me, hide in your house, and da-da-da-da. Me not even tripping. I think it was like maybe a pound of weed or something. He came in and, you feel me, hid it somewhere. I don't know where he hid it at. You know what I'm saying? I have no idea. But he came in my room and took a nap on my bed. You feel me? And we're just chilling, just cool. Then he left. You feel me? Went to go do something. Came back in like the next day or the day after that and came and got it. And I think it really was a test. He was just trying to really see something. You feel me? Are you one of them ones that's going to be searching and looking for it and try to find it and try to take some? You feel me? For one, I don't know where you hit it at. And for two, it wasn't even like that. I didn't even pay it no mind. You feel me? Because whatever I needed, I could get it myself. You know what I'm saying? And again, you'll be tested in crazy ways when it just comes to who you are as a person. You know what I'm saying? So, that was a cool type of friendship I had, but it fizzled out because it's always someone in your corner who's a hater. You know what I'm saying? Who push people away because now they in secret competition. I ain't gonna name no names, and I'm not gonna say who it was, but I had to realize now that I've grown wiser in who I am, that all my life it was really a competition. And it's crazy how you portrayed, you feel me, like you had more, it wasn't even about that. It was something totally different. But when you are unaware of who you are, you can't read in between the lines. You'll get the signs, but the signs won't be clear enough to understand because you're not clear enough in yourself of who you are. You know what I'm saying? So I've been in situations with, you know what I'm saying, a lot of people, and oftentimes they wasn't even sexual. It was just a real good, strong bond. And that sometimes is hard to get in a world these days, because people are motivated by their trauma, and in order to feel like they can get something, they have to do something. You know what I'm saying? It's crazy, it's weird, but I mean, I guess that's the way it is these days. You know what I'm saying? So I have to really take pride in me understanding what I'm doing with my life right now. You feel me? People are in very vulnerable, weak spots, and they're just sleeping with anybody. You know what I'm saying? They're going back to certain exes. Listen, toxic behavior. Don't do it. It's not worth it. You know what I'm saying? The most important thing you could do right now is work on yourself and elevate. So therefore, you can go in a direction where you get somebody that's truly for you. You know what I'm saying? Not someone that wants to use you. Not somebody that wants to destiny swap. Not somebody that wants to take your energy, you feel me, and make your life a living hell. You know what I'm saying? Solely because they never was into you. It was just the light they seen in you, and they were a demon. You know what I'm saying? So listen, if you don't know what it is, I just told you. Please make sure you like, comment, share, and subscribe, and understand and know that the power of sex between two people is something that is strong as hell. And if I were you, I'd be very mindful of who you just give your hot pocket to. It's sacred. Protect it.